If this is your first time joining us or you're watching the replay, my name is Dr. Tip. I'm founder of the Tellemtiptoldyou podcast.
Hey, but
we discuss holistic success. You want to come say hello, and then you can get. Then you have to be quiet. Remember?
Okay, your name is not Dr. Tip. Your name is Tiffany.
Yeah, but people call me Dr. Tip. He said my name is not Dr. Tip. My name is Tiffany. Say hello and then say goodbye.
Hello.
All right, so today we're talking about self-accountability. Now, if you've been watching the Holistic Success training series, then you know last week we did vision statements and mission statements, and we talked about building a plan towards our own personal vision of success that is holistic in nature. So when we talk about success,
I'm coloring a singer.
you're going to do what?
I'm coloring a singer.
You're coloring a singer. Okay, good. Thank you. I'm sorry. So when we talk about holistic success, we are talking about as we define it for ourselves. So your version of success won't necessarily look like my version of success, but whatever version of success we establish for ourselves, we should pursue it relentlessly, but with patience for ourselves. So last week we talked about having a vision statement as our long-term goal. Vision statements are future oriented. We talked about that. And we also talked about mission statements are in alignment with those vision statements. So the mission statement is the vision statement brought into the now. So if our vision is to be a best-selling author, then our mission statement has to be that we're a writer, right? So we talked about that last week. Today we want to talk about self-accountability, and it falls in line with that. Do me a favor, if you have an accountability partner, go ahead and share this video with them or tag them below so that they can get this information. I do want to cover a few announcements before we get into the meat of today's training. The first one is for those of you who took part in that Sacred Living series, the free series I did on how to live more sacredly, have a sacred life. Then I have developed a Sacred Living Manifestation Journal. It is available on pre-sale now for only $7. It's going up much higher than that after the pre-sale. So that's available on the website, www.tellemtiptoldyou.com. So make sure you slide in that and go ahead and pre-order your manifestation journal. I'm also taking 3 new coaching clients. We are wrapping up classes this week, grades this week. Classes wrapped up earlier. Grades and everything are finalized Monday, so it gives me some time to take on some new coaching clients. So if you've been looking for a life coach or you've been thinking about hiring me, now is the time because I have room for 3 new coaching clients. And then also know that the time management, the African-centered time management course is about to be released this month. So make sure you're tuning in for that. If you want the replay from today's training and the worksheet that goes along with it, because y'all know I'm visual. It's hard for me with these lives. I'm trying to figure out this space, how to do a whiteboard and all that kind of stuff. But if you want the replay to this video along with the worksheet that I've designed to go with it, make sure you're on my email list. That'll go out Tuesday. So those are the announcements. I thank you for joining me for our Holistic Success training series. Let's get started. So, what is self-accountability, right? Many of us have accountability partners, or we're more familiar with accountability partners, but self-accountability is a little bit different. I think it's something that we all need to develop an how-to on. Evie, can you keep it down just a little bit, please?
Okay.
Thank you, sir. It's something we have to do more of. Here's my definition. You might want to jot this down. My personal definition of self-accountability is the practice and process by which we ensure ongoing, efficient progress towards our holistic success. Really do. Do you want to go in the other room and watch Roku, please? Well, then you have to be quiet. All right, so that definition again, I'm so sorry. That definition again is the practice and process by which, we're not going to play with that right now because it makes too much noise. I'm going to put you in the other room. Thank you.
No, I want to play.
Evan, please. And now I can't turn the thing off. Stop. Just stop.
I want it.
Stop. So it is the practice. I will break it. It is the process and practice by which we ensure ongoing, efficient progress towards our holistic success. Now stop. I asked you to stop. See, this is what happens when everybody leaves the house and leaves you with the 3-year-old while you're trying to do your life. Look at the people are paying attention and they see you crying. See that?
No.
So tell them you're sorry for crying and they laugh. No, you are not going to make noise with that. Stop, Evan. Stop. I'm going to get Garvey. You better stop. All right, so self-accountability. We talked about the mission statements and vision statements last week. Do not make noise with that. I'm going to put you out the room. All right, so we talked about the vision and the mission statements last week, and we talked about how the vision is our big goal, it's our long-term goal. The mission statement is how we envision working towards that goal on a daily basis. So we also talked about the importance of developing strategies. Now, I am sure that you have heard before that your goals should be SMART. I'm going to show you why when we get to that point. Now, if we imagine our vision as our end destination, right? So our vision statement is where we want to end up. Then our mission statement and the strategies we employ daily are like the vehicle we are driving to that destination. So your vision is the destination. Your mission is the vehicle you're using to get to that destination. What is accountability? Accountability are those signposts and mile markers that tell us we're traveling in the right direction and at the right speed. Does that make sense? So I'll say that again. If our vision is our end destination, our mission and our strategies in that mission are our vehicle we're traveling in to that end result, then the signposts and the mile markers are our accountability system. All right? Here's why you need an accountability system. If you think about that, if we play that metaphor all the way out, when you think about being in a car with no end game, you just kind of driving, you wasting gas, you might end up in the middle of nowhere or somewhere you don't need to be, right? That's what happens when you don't have a vision. Let's say you have a vision, but no means to get there. You're stuck wherever you are and you'll never meet your end result. And if you don't have the mile markers, if you don't have the signposts, you might be traveling in the wrong direction and not even realize it. So all of these things are essential to our progress towards our end result, which is holistic success. Remember, success does not happen by mistake. It's not by accident. It's by effort. Okay? All right. So, if you haven't already seen that mission and vision statement video, hit me in the DMs. I saved it on my phone. I can send it to you because that is important before we move forward. So we're going to be talking about self-accountability today. Let me say this. I want to give this caveat. We are African people, most of us, many of us, all of us on this live right now. I don't know who's watching the replay, but our primary form of accountability should be group accountability and partnership, right? We are not meant as culturally as a people to do things in isolation. Okay, so my preferred means of accountability would be for you to have a partner or a group that you're working within. Unfortunately, based on where you are, circumstances, what you're working on, it may not be possible to have a group. And in that case, we don't want to just wait for the group to show up or wait for the relationships to appear. We want to work on accountability by ourselves as a stopgap measure. So I want to preface all of this by saying, although we're talking about self-accountability today, accountability in its preferred norm for Black folk should be in group. All right, we feed off of each other's energy. We use each other's strengths. We support each other in weakness, all that kind of stuff. But if you don't have a partner, don't wait. You know, I have found in my own life that if you are waiting for someone else to get ready for your journey, you might be waiting forever. Because remember, our success is holistically defined by ourselves. And so they might not have the same journey. They might not have the same journey that we have. So we need to do what we need to do when we need to do it. And that includes not waiting for somebody else to get ready. Some of us are using that as an excuse right now. Like, you feel like you need a business partner, or you feel like you need a workout buddy, or you feel like you need I don't even know what I want to call it. Maybe you think you need a life coach and all that, but you can't wait till you find one. You got to start the work now. And I'm of the, you've heard me say before, when you're doing what you're supposed to do, Spirit will give you what you need to do it. So if we start with the self-accountability first, then I'm certain that you will be given the partners that you need to move forward. But you cannot, especially those of us who are inclined to use that as an excuse. Tellemtiptoldyou as a podcast would not exist if I waited. That was actually supposed to be a group of us. I'm just saying. All right. Now, some of you have a group, a partnership. You have people around you that you could be working with, excuse me, but you're not ready to share what you're working with other people. Then, too, you can't wait. Go ahead and get it started, get it kicking, and hopefully you'll reach a point where you can bring in other people. Now, let me say something about that. If you have an innovative vision, a vision for a business or an invention or anything, right? One of my elders, one of my mentors, in fact, told me once that you have to be careful with your vision, because if you share it with too many people, it could be co-opted before you even give birth to it. And so sometimes it is important that you have tremendous amount of trust with your accountability partner. And if you don't have that kind of trust, then self-accountability can be used either until you develop the trust or until you find another partner. Some things you do want to keep to yourself until you're in it. That's just, a business hint. It's also a strategy for a lot of activists. You don't want to share your plans too early. It's like a newborn baby. Especially, think about it like a newborn baby. You don't let just anybody hold a baby. The baby got to get a little older. It's got to have an immune system. And then, then you can share the baby. You can let other people hold a baby. But some of your dreams are like babies. And some of y'all got just anybody touching your dream too fast. No. So the self-accountability is useful there too. So again, if you want the replay to this video and with all the new stuff, y'all know I call them new, all my nephew stuff edited out, hit me up in the DM and I'll send it to you with the worksheet, because one of the things I would have put on the worksheet is this cycle I'm about to give you. So if you have a pen, here's where you might want to start making some notes. So once your vision and your mission statements are established, all right, then the first thing in our cycle is to plan. So once we have our vision and our mission in place, then you and I have talked about before having a 5-year plan, and we've talked about how to take our long-term goals and back into them, to do a kind of backwards design and take the long-term goal and turn it into our daily to-do list, right? Our daily to-do list, if you've missed it, let me say it again. Your daily to-do list should have elements on it that, explicitly align with your 5-year plan. So let me use my example. If your 5-year plan is to be a best-selling author, your to-do list better have some writing on it or some research. Does that make sense? So your long-term goals, now that we have our vision and our mission statements, now we have to back into what are the daily things we will be doing to make sure we're moving towards those things. All right? That is the first step of even moving into the accountability stuff. So I've got like half a page of notes I'm about to give you before we even talk about accountability. So the first thing we want to do is have a plan. All right. So if you need last week's video, make sure you hit me up. And then you move from the plan. So if you're drawing the cycle with me, then you move your arrow around to now you're going to implement your plan. Right? So we've got our vision statement. We've got our mission statement. We've thought about how our daily activities are guiding us towards that end result. Does that make sense? Thank you, sir. So you move from your plan to implementation. So now we're doing the things we plan to do. I wanted to give you a quote I really, really like by Joel A. Barker. A vision without action is merely a dream. All right, so we're not dreaming, we are getting into our holistic success. All right, so we're going to plan. We have our plan, we have our strategies. Now we're implementing our strategies. Now, if you're drawing, do another line. And this is the final step in the cycle. We assess. All right, so it's plan, implement, assess. And then you draw another arrow back to plan. Because based on what happens in our assessment, we may need to tweak our plan. All right, so that's the cycle. That's why it's a whole cycle. We close the loop. Now, one of the problems in U.S. public schools, y'all know I'm in education, one of the problems a lot of teachers have is they never close the loop. See, the purpose of assessment is to make sure we're making that our choices, our daily choices, are having the impact that we want them to have. So, for example, a teacher in the classroom, if I give my students a math test and the entire class fails, I don't just put F's in the grade book and keep it pushing. No, I got to go through that test data and figure out where we went wrong, because I probably went wrong. If everybody failed, the teacher went wrong. And then I have to reteach that concept, right? Because the purpose is for my students to understand. Same thing with assessment when we're doing accountability for ourselves. When I am assessing my progress towards my goal, the purpose is for me to learn which strategies need to be tweaked. All right, so we can't leave the assessment part out. All right, so we plan, we implement, we assess, and then we plan, implement, success, then we plan, implement. It's a cycle. All right. Now, let's go back to what I said about SMART goals. All of us have probably heard by now that when we're doing goal setting activities, they should be SMART. They should be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-based, right? Our SMART goals. For today's training, we're concentrating on that M, the measurable part of the goal. The goal has to be measurable. So let's go back. We have our vision statement. We have our mission statement. We have our daily strategies. Now, here's the kicker. I want your strategies to be measurable. In order for us to do self-accountability, the strategies have to be measurable. So again, this is where I'll probably pick up my pen and take some notes. When you are developing your strategy, here are 3 questions to ask yourself. When you are developing your strategy, here are 3 questions to ask yourself. Number 1, can I measure this with a yes or no? Can I measure this with a yes or no? I'm going to explain each in just a second. But number 1 is, can I measure this with a yes or no? Number 2, can I quantitatively measure this? Now I see Erin was in here, so she know I beat them with what quantitative means. But I'm gonna get all of us there. Can I quantitatively measure this goal? And then finally, can I qualitatively measure this goal? So can I measure this goal with a yes or no? Can I quantitatively measure this? And can I measure this qualitatively? When you are setting your strategies, one or more of those answers has to be yes, if you really want to hold yourself accountable. Here's why. I'm going to give you an example. Can I measure this with a yes or no? I will drink 8 glasses of water a day. Yes or no? Did I do it? I will meditate daily. Yes or no? Did I do it? I will write 30 minutes a day. Yes or no? Did I do it? So yes or no goals. So you can't say something like, I will be a better me tomorrow. That's not really a yes or a no, because how are you measuring that? That's hard to measure unless you're going to sit down. Now, there is a way to do that, but then you got to sit down and what we call in research, operationalize what it means to be a better you. And then what you're doing then is defining better you with things that are measurable. So it's easier just to set a measurable strategy in place. Does that make sense? So that's number 1. Can I measure with a yes or no? Those are questions like, did I do it or did I not do it? That's easy. Okay. Number two, that can I quantitatively measure this? This is, for example, let's say my vision for myself is to permanently release 50 pounds of excess weight, right? Let's say that's part of my goal. Then daily, it might be I have to meet a minimum of 30 minutes of exercise. I'm counting. Some people, rather than have that daily marker, will do a week-long marker. I have to have 4 hours of exercise this week. That's a quantitative measure, right? A yes or no would mean I'm exercising 3 times a week. Yes or no, did you do that? But if you're measuring based on how many minutes you're getting in, hey baby, if you're measuring how many minutes you get in, then that's a quantitative measure. Quantitative simply means it's something you count. All right. And then finally, what is a qualitative measure? What does it look like? Qualitatively, I'm talking about how I feel about a thing. How do I feel? So here, you might want to develop some type of scale. If you have the passion planner, mine is on the other side of the room. Otherwise, I would get it and show you. But we do this in early childhood assessment a lot, so you don't have to do a lot of writing. You might have, one of your strategies may be to end the day with more gratitude, right? That's a yes or no. That's not a good example of the qualitative. The qualitative is more about what is your mood, right? And I'm tracking my mood over time. So one might be in my journal or somewhere else, and I'm getting ahead of myself. I might draw 3 faces. One has a frown, one has a straight line, and one has a smile. And then my goal might be to figure in that smiley face every day. I felt happy today, right? That's a qualitative measure. So again, when we're setting our strategies in place for achieving our vision and mission, we want to make sure we have strategies that are measurable. Did I do it? Did I not do it? Did I do it enough? Did I not do it enough? And how do I feel about how I did it? So that's how we're measuring these things. So now that we know that that's how we're establishing our strategies, now it should be kind of clear how we're going to hold ourselves accountable. We're holding ourselves accountable based on answering the question about whether or not we're doing the things we're supposed to do. Okay. And now you see why you don't necessarily need someone to check in with, because you're checking in on your own progress. Now, remember I said that's not optimal. The optimal is to share what you're doing individually with your partner. But if you don't have a partner, you do it this way. So here are the 5 steps for your self-accountability plan. We're going to create a plan for accountability. All right. Because remember, success does not happen by mistake. We plan success. All right. Number 1, when we are developing our accountability plan, we're going to figure out how often we're checking in. Now, in the beginning, we may want to check in often. So, for example, if I'm trying to stop drinking sodas, I probably want to check in every day. Did I drink a soda today? And I'm tracking my progress, right? So in the beginning of a strategy like that, you probably do want to have an everyday marker. Now, you got to be careful and you got to know yourself. This is the beauty of having a self-accountability plan, because you are determining what your rate is. For me, with food, and Crystal is on here. She's been my personal trainer twice. And if I was in Atlanta, I would be trying to get her to be my personal trainer again. But I know this about myself. If I deny myself too many kinds of foods, I go the other way. Right? It's not healthy for me to deny myself, because then I'm thinking about the thing all the time, and then it makes me break whatever fast or whatever thing I'm trying to do. Not fast. Sorry, Michael. I don't do fasts. But whatever strategy. Like, let's say I'm saying no carbs. I don't work well with plans like that, because then I'm always thinking, damn, I can't have no bread. I can't have no bread. What? No bread? And then I want bread. It makes me fiend for bread. So if I'm doing a daily check-in, I'm going to mess myself up. I got to give myself some grace in that. For me, this is Tiffany. So I can't check in daily with the no carb thing. I might say I'm cutting down on carbs. I'm trying not to eat them every day. And then my check-in might be every 5 days, every 7 days, or what have you. So your check-ins, you need to determine based on your own habits, what you know about your own tendencies. I know that denying myself things makes me want them more. All right. So that was number one, determine the frequency of your check-in. Number two, you want to determine the method of your check-in. How are you going to determine if you're getting these things done, right? I was joking with Michael because I'm very proud of him. He did a wonderful fast. I love him so. Good job, babe. We determine the method of the check-in. So you're gonna decide, is this gonna be a yes or no check-in? Did I meet this or did I not meet it? That might be as simple as your check-in is. And then you need to, I'm getting ahead of myself, but you need to decide, is it gonna be a yes, no check-in? Is it gonna be that I'm measuring a thing, check-in? Maybe you're weighing yourself once a week or once a month or whatever, or maybe you're measuring your waist, or maybe you're counting how many minutes you spend at the computer, applying for jobs. Whatever it is, you're going to determine how you're measuring that. And then if Aaron is still here, they know that this is one of my favorite concepts to teach my students is efficacy, right? I think you need to be checking in with how confident you feel about your ability to achieve this thing. That has to be part of every accountability plan, in my opinion. If you really want to hold yourself or someone else accountable, efficacy needs to be a check-in. And what that means is, I feel confident that I can do this thing. Because if the confidence isn't there, you're not going to do it. You might start off doing it, and this is my weight loss struggle. Is in the first few days, I have real strong confidence that I'm about to do this thing, and then it kind of, I've been a big girl for a long time. I don't know, right? And I have to check in with myself to figure out where I am so that I can self-correct. Because remember, the purpose of assessment is so that you can tweak your plan, all right? So you need to be checking in with yourself regularly, nightly, once a week, once a month, whatever. But you need to be checking in with yourself to see where your confidence level is in terms of your goals. Are you truly confident that you're going to be a successful business owner? If you're not there, then you may need to hire a therapist or a life coach or a business coach of some sort to get your confidence there. Because you can't, efficacy as a concept, this is why I love to teach it. The research around efficacy says, if you believe that you can do a thing, you tend to do it. If you believe that you can't, you won't. So your mindset about your ability to achieve holistic success, that's the gas. Remember we talked about the journey? That's the gas in all this, right? You have to have the mindset that it's doable. So part of your check-in with yourself has to be, how confident do I feel that I can achieve this goal? And then finally, you want to check your moods. Because you don't want to be doing things that are going to have you in a negative mood. Negativity won't attract growth. Negativity and growth are kind of like opposites. They don't align. So you want to make sure you're being as positive as possible through this process. So that's number two. That was a lot in number two. But number two was determine your method of check-in. So number one was to determine frequency of check-in. Number two was to determine method of check-in. Number three is to determine your consequence. Determine your consequence. So when you're checking in with yourself, I should say your consequence and your reward, because we're going to be positive, right? If I check in and everything is all roses, it's going the way it's supposed to do, I need to have some kind of reward system in place. What am I going to do? Am I going to give myself the weekend off? I'm not going to do any work. I'm just free time, self-care, free time all weekend. That might be a reward for doing something. A cheat meal, if you're into that thing, might be your reward. Saving up and treating yourself to a new handbag might be your reward. At one point, that was one of my major rewards. I wanted this particular bag, and I chunked it. If I do this by this date, then I get that. I did a professional photo shoot when I got my doctorate. That was my reward for myself for finishing my dissertation. So you want to establish a reward system. You also want to establish a consequential system. So yeah, we know how to treat ourselves well when we're doing well, but we also need to have a consequence in place. Consequence does not equate to punishment. Let me say that again. Consequence does not equate to punishment. You should not be punishing yourself for mistakes. We're human. Mistakes are going to happen. You're going to fall off sometimes. If you don't fall off ever, you need to write about yourself because you're some kind of deity. He's some kind of God if you don't make mistakes. So you want to be patient with yourself. Your consequence may be that you sit down, you are making yourself sit down and journal about how it feels to not meet that marker, to not meet that. Remember, we talked about it being like a mile marker, right? You want consequence might be to sit down with a therapist and talk through this thing, okay? But it's not punishment. Your consequence for your accountability is not punishment. Punishment doesn't. That's a whole nother story. Punishment don't work. Not for kids. Not y'all see what just happened. It don't work. All right. I know that's a debate in the black culture, but anyway. Number 4. So number 3 was to determine your consequence and reward system. Number 4, determine your documentation method, because you should have a documentation method. How are you documenting your progress towards your goals? Now, some of you know I'm somewhat of a historian, kinda. And written record is so important. How will your 2 generations from now, how will your people know who you were? Except that you leave something. And how about what you leave behind might help somebody else on their journey? How beautiful is that? Zora Neale Hurston, how many years are between her death and my birth? But when I tell you she shaped some of my daily decisions, because of what she left behind. So we need to be documenting things. Now, we don't only need to be thinking about future generations for documentation. It's good for us. It's good for us to have documentation. Documentation allows us to see our progress. And when we can see our progress, our efficacy goes up. You see how that's related? If I can see, damn, I wouldn't do that today. I drank how many sodas last week? I don't even have a taste for sodas this week. Then you have an increased amount of efficacy around your ability to accomplish your goal. So you want to document things so that you can see your progress over time. You want to be able to see your progress over time. Also, some of us are very visual. I'm extremely visual. I need to see things. I need a check mark. Right now, we're teaching one of the standards for my nephew's age group, that 3 to 4 year old, is to learn today, tomorrow, yesterday. So we're working with a calendar and marking things off so he can see visually where we are. Some of us need to be doing that with our habits. So those, for my sisters isn't in here, but for a while, everybody had those water jugs that had the time, the hours on it, so that you can see your progress through the day. You know how much you need to go, how hard you need to go for the rest of the day because you got half your jug left or whatever. You need documentation to see where you are in the journey. Okay. So what are some documentation methods that I would suggest to you? Y'all know I'm big on journaling. I think you need a journal. Your journal is a perfect place. You can if you do bullet journaling, there's a way to create habit trackers in your bullet journal. But you also need to have narrative that tells you how you feel that day, right? When we talked about tracking your mood, you can track your efficacy level. Today, on a scale of 1 to 10, I feel like I can really do this thing. Might be a 10. Or Tuesday might be, oh shit, what the hell did I get myself into? That might be a 2 day, what day. But you want to make sure, and then you can kind of figure out your patterns. It may be that you start to realize, hey, on days I'm craving carbs is on days when I have a meeting with my supervisor. All right, you can start to see patterns, and then you can shift your strategies around the patterns that start to develop. All right, so that's why you need to be documenting these things. So you can document through that journal. Some people have whiteboards. In my office, I generally have a whiteboard of all the projects I need to do for that week, and then I can line them off, and it gives me a sense of accomplishment, which again increases my efficacy to see myself marking through these things. I've seen on Pinterest. I haven't done it yet because I read so much that I don't want to mess up these. Y'all know the thin Post-it notes? They're thin. You use them when you read to mark a page. Okay. We've all heard the proverb that it takes 21 days to make a habit. So I've seen people take 21 of those little bitty stickers, right, and put them on a door seal or a mirror or something like that. And they pull off one a day. And that way you can see your progress that way. I thought it was really cute, but I read so much and I love those things. I wouldn't want to waste them. But that might work for you, right? If you have a mirror, or a window in your home, dry erase markers. Now, not a permanent marker. Don't send me no letters telling me I owe you for messing up your mirror or your window. A dry erase marker you can write on glass with and erase it later. You can track your stuff on your mirror that you look in every day in your bathroom, or the mirror to your garage that you're walking through the window that you're walking through every day. You can leave yourself notes and check things there. You can use apps, right? You can use habit tracking apps to see how far you're doing, how well you're doing. 3 that I've used that I don't have a problem with any of these is Done. You can, I don't know if all these are on iPhone. I assume they're also on Android. But Done is one. Habit Tracker is another, and Way of Life is another one. The one Way of Life I stopped using because the free version only gives you a few categories, and I needed more categories that you could use. So those are 3 different habit trackers you can download to your phone, and you can do it on your phone, right? But you do need to be documenting your progress towards your goals. And number 5 is to remember to go back and to tweak your strategies based on your accountability check-ins. All right. Remember, the purpose of all this is to create a workable plan towards our holistic success. So if something is not working, or you start to see a pattern, then you might need to replan some things. I have noticed for myself that writing goal of 30 minutes a day, if it's not the first thing of my day, it tends not to happen. So my butt needs to be in a seat in front of a keyboard in the morning for 30 minutes. That adjustment had to be made based on what I observed with myself. So when you're checking in with your accountability, don't forget that you're checking in to make sure your strategies are working. Your strategies may need to be changed. All right, so let's run through those 5, and then we will wrap up. Number 1, determine the frequency of your check-in. Number 2, determine the method of your check-in. Is it yes or no? Is it measured? Is it all efficacy? Is it about your mood? Number 3 is determine your consequence and reward system. And number 4 is to determine how you're going to document your progress. And number 5 is to make sure you have a plan to use your results to tweak your strategies. That is your self-accountability plan. Now, as we were going through it, you probably could see how this would be useful with an accountability partner too. Here's the only real tweak if you are using this with an accountability partner, is to add a number 6, probably a number 4.5 on that list of how are you going to share your progress with your partner, right? How often are you checking in with your partner? Thank you, Crystal. So I hope that has been helpful for you. Having that self-accountability plan in place it's the only way we measure our progress, right? We might feel like we're doing a whole lot, but when we start looking at the data, maybe we figure out, ooh, I could be doing a little bit more. Or it might be like, I feel like I ain't doing nothing. But wait a minute, I wrote 5 chapters last month. It might be, you need an accountability plan. Let's just go for that. So I want to give you some reminders. I want you to be reminded to be driven by your own goals and not the goals that someone else sets for you. Because if you follow their goals, you're going to end up where they want you, not necessarily where you're supposed to be. That's number 1. Number 2, I want you to seek out your own group. Seek out your own group. And you might have, when I was in college, we talked about small doses friends. You know how you have, I'm more careful with the word friend now because my grandfather gave me a lecture about that. But small doses friends was a concept we had in college, that you might have friends that, small doses friends for us were people that you could go to the club with. But you couldn't really do anything else with them. All right, small doses people. You need to find your group, your personal development group, your spiritual development group, your financial development group. The group, and it might not be that it's the same people for everything in your plan. My weight release accountability partners may not be the same people that I talk to about my writing goals. Does that make sense? So seek out the group that is relevant to your needs. And I'm not talking about using people. Please be clear, I'm not talking about using people. Because in any group that you're a part of, you should be a contributing member of that group. All right. Number 3, I want you to be patient with yourself on this journey. We are human. We're going to make mistakes. And, I can tell you my name. The mistakes will always make you better. It might not feel like it. But if I hadn't gone through some of this, child, don't make me preach. All right. Number four, one, two, three, yeah, four, five motivational tools, some things that are going to help you keep going. I like music. I have a playlist on Tidal. I got a writing playlist on Tidal. Michael doesn't know this, but I have a playlist called When I Think About Him. I have for the culture playlist when I feel like being a little militant. You know, so develop, plans for yourself to enjoy good music that keep you motivated. I like motivational quotes and proverbs. That's why I try to share at least one with you in these trainings. I like videos, so like Eric Thomas. You can't watch an Eric Thomas video and not feel like you can go against the world. Like you run up the rocky steps after the end of an Eric Thomas video. So find videos and things like that. But you find tools and make sure they're around you all the time. I'm not in my own home right now. Some of you know I'm staying with my parents. Right. But in my usual office, some of you may remember, in my usual office, I have a motivational wall. It's full of quotes and pictures and things that keep me motivated. In my office, I have a wall full of pictures that keep me motivated. So things like that, make sure you have around you. Again, if you tuned in late, the worksheet that goes along with this training is available. Make sure you're on my email list. I'm sending a replay of this video out minus Nunu's tantrum at the very beginning and a worksheet that goes with it to my email list Tuesday. So make sure you're on the email list to get that. Don't forget that the podcast comes out on Monday. New episodes of the podcast come out on Monday at Tellemtiptoldyou. We are on SoundCloud and iTunes. Again, let me remind you, I'm taking on new coaching clients. So if you need a life coach, holla at your girl. Please share and tag your account. Please share this video and or tag it for your accountability partner to get it. And then let's say the names of those people who were lynched. I don't really want to get into it right now because I don't want to adjust my mood. But yeah, let's be politically engaged. Any questions before we go, before we sign off? I appreciate you spending this time with me. Any questions, comments, concerns? All right, seeing none, I'm going to wish you a beautiful rest of your day. Tellemtiptoldyou. Y'all take care. Bye.